Welcome to our special guests, members, and viewers across India and the world. From New Delhi, the capital of India, the Foreign Correspondents Club of South Asia, we bring you another interesting and important debate. India and the world are eagerly watching and wondering what to expect from the ongoing Assembly Elections 2022 in India. The debate is live on FCC South Asia website, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and several other social media and media handles. Viewers may send in their comments and questions through Facebook or YouTube. We have with us today eminent leaders and spokespersons of three political parties in the battle for important states: Uttar Pradesh, Uttarakhand, Punjab, Goa, and Manipur. We will debate the future of their parties. Are these elections a midterm test for Prime Minister Narendra Modi before the 2024 general elections? And will a poor performance by Congress and Samajwadi Party wane their national influence or even impact their survival? Let me first introduce our special guests. We have with us Dr. Ami Yajnik of the Indian National Congress Party, who was elected unopposed to the Rajya Sabha from Gujarat in March 2018. Besides BSc and LLB degrees, Masters in Ecology and Environment, she's a Master of the Science of Law and the Doctor of the Science of Law with degrees from Stanford University, USA. She has served as additional public prosecutor in the High Court of Gujarat, as standing counsel for the central government, and as senior standing counsel for the Central Board of Excise and Customs. She started practicing law in 84. Since 1987, a significant part of her legal practice has been gender justice related work, which includes pro bono legal aid for women and legal awareness campaigns for women and their legal rights at grassroots levels. She has been a member of the National Commission for Women. She is a writer and author on women empowerment against sexual abuse and harassment. Her frequent talk shows on radio and television focusing on women's rights are watched by many. She is one of the founder members of and immediate past president of All India Federation of Women's Lawyers, a national organization that works with women lawyers for betterment of women and children. Welcome, Dr. Yajnik. Then we have with us Professor Rakesh Kumar Sinha, Member of Parliament, Rajya Sabha for the Bharatiya Janata Party. He hails from Bihar. He has received a gold medal for topping the MA degree examination in Delhi University. He studied his MPhil on civil liberties movement, particularly those originating from Andhra Pradesh, and later pursued his PhD research on the organizational and ideological transformation of the Communist Party of India, Marxist. He's a professor of political science, Delhi University. He has authored many books. Biography of Dr. K.B. Hegdewar, RSS founder, Understating RSS, Swaraj in Ideas, Terrorism and the Indian Media, a comparative study of the approach of English, Hindi, and Urdu newspapers towards terrorism, etc. He has also been nominated to several social, educational, and cultural bodies as a member, Anjuman Court of Jamia Millia Islamia University, member General Assembly of the Indian Council for Cultural Relations, and member Court of Northeastern Hill University. In one of his first speeches in Rajya Sabha, Dr. Sinha drew the attention of the House and the nation to the problems and issues of the nomadic tribes, whose numbers is no less than 10 crores, 100 million people. Also with us, another illustrious person is Professor Ali Khan Mahmudabad. He hails from the family of Rajas of Mahmudabad. I just read today, he teaches political science and history at Ashoka University. He's a national spokesperson for the Samajwadi Party. He graduated from Amherst College. His PhD at Cambridge focused on the formation of the Muslim political identity in North India between 1850 and 1950. In particular, the thesis presented a history of the public space of poetry and a genealogy of the idea of homeland over these 100 years. He secured his MPhil also from Cambridge. He wrote a thesis on transnational Shia Muslim networks in the early 20th century between South Asia and the Middle East. Dr. Ali also studied Arabic at the University of Damascus in Syria. He conducts research in a number of languages and regularly contributes to print and online publications. He's a regular columnist for Urdu newspapers and online magazines, besides contributing columns also in reputed national and international dailies and magazines. Dr. Ali has also authored several books, among them Poetry of Belonging, Muslim Imaginings of India 1850 to 1950. We talked about that before. And interestingly enough, he plays the saxophone besides writing poetry. Welcome to all three of you and my colleague Simran Sodi. Simran Sodi is a member of the Foreign Correspondents Club. She's an internationally syndicated columnist, writes for the Khalij Times, and is a veteran journalist in India. Welcome to all of you. Let me open the floor by asking each one of you, that's sort of how we start our dialogue, is each one of you give us a couple of minutes, no more, on what do you think one should expect from these elections, these crucial elections that are ongoing, and how would the party fare? What is the nation going to do as the whole world is watching this to be a sort of midterm election before the big general election? I'll start with Dr. Give ladies first, Dr. Ami Yajnik. Please. You have to unmute yourself, Dr. Yajnik.
Thank you, Munishi. Yes, everyone is watching, and the country is also watching from every nook and corner. The five states that have gone for assembly elections. As you have seen in the last at least 3 to 4 months, there is a lot of issue raising, and there is a lot of all parties trying to pitch in their points, and especially those in power in those states are trying to show what they have done in the last few years during their tenure, and those parties not in power are trying to show the failures in the respective states. It is very uh, yes, it is going to be a very tough fight because the ruling parties in those states, whether you talk about Uttar Pradesh or you talk about um, uh, Punjab or you talk about Uttarakhand, everywhere their scoreboards are very different as per the state performance and how their models have worked out. And so the opposition parties try to bring forth the failures. For example, if I have to talk about Uttar Pradesh, there has been a steep rise in crime cases against women. I think we may not mention the very, very top cases. And also, if we talk about Uttarakhand, high rate of unemployment. If we talk about Punjab, there are other issues where the government has done very, very well on very several fronts. So these are the states that are going to show who is going to win. And we may not exactly say that these are some midterm uh, polls that are going to talk about or show something of 2024, because it's too far to say. We are in very fast times these days, and everything changes so fast. And the people are also, and the polity is also very enlightened, and they really try to find out what they are getting from the governments. So we are, yes, we have put all our points forth in all the five states, and the Congress has been doing so well in the last so many decades, has brought the country to such a stage where we are a modern India and all the accomplishments. And so we are trying to say that well, we are going to bring a lot of change if we come to power in whichever state we are.
Thank you. Thank you. Rakesh ji, your views on this current elections? You have to unmute yourself. Ji.
Dear Manish ji, Simran ji, my two co-panelists, Ami Yagnik ji and Ali Khan ji. I see this election very important in the perspective of world modern civilization. At this juncture of crisis, when humanity is facing, Indians have demonstrated how much they value the democracy. And the mass participation in democracy, all political parties' consensus to be part of the democratic process in this hour of crisis is very important and significant. That would mark a distinct feature in future for the scholars and those Democrats who do the comparative study of democracy in the modern world, and also particularly the developing countries like India. As far as national perspective is concerned, the elections always have some kind of referendum for the governments and the political parties. Now, also some new beginnings, and there are certain kind of new contestations. In this election, one feature which I would point out, which is very important, micro but very important for democracy. Prime Minister told something in the Parliament this time in Rajya Sabha while answering the thanks motion, that dynasty is dangerous and detrimental for democracy. When Prime Minister said, you just see the what BJP had done this time. In Goa election, one of the most popular leader, Manohar Parrikar, late Manohar Parrikar, his son was contender for a seat. Naturally, there is sympathy because he is a great leader. But party has demonstrated being a greatness of a father does not qualify son to become a party leader. This is a beginning. I think that a dynasty which has crippled the Indian democracy, imprisoned the Indian democracy. Most of the political parties are under dynasty. BJP, by one instance, is initiated that if some infection is with us, we are going to remove that. So I think this is one beginning which I point out. People should understand that it is a micro, but its impact is macro. Second important thing is that in Uttar Pradesh and every places, we always want that there should be a debate on development. But the opposition parties have the same agenda, the old agenda, anti-Modism, anti-BJP and RSS. They are by different words, different ways, they are coming this election. So that election, sometimes we find that election discourse is going to a low level, a new low level. You have seen that Punjab Chief Minister is a narrow stand on the question of Bihar and Uttar Pradesh people coming to Punjab. I think such sectarian things, the election also decides. If I'm speaking here, that in the age of communication, I'm not speaking on the foreign correspondent club only. It goes to entire world. So I think so sectarian things which are emerging also, so that in competitive party system, how parties go to new low just to gather the votes. So I think three things are very important in this election. One is federalism, question of federalism is being raised. Second is that caste and communal basis of polarization, which some parties are trying to do. Third is a debate on Hindutva, which is also taking place. And BJP is blamed for anti-minority, which is an old slogan and old narrative of the opposition parties for the last 5 and 6 debates during the time, since the time of Bharatiya Janata. So I think this election would be detrimental, and also I consider for some political parties Waterloo, because their old tactics is going to be defeated. Second important thing is in northeastern states, particularly Manipur, where Bharatiya Janata Party had government, but earlier the Bharatiya Janata Party has lesser number of members, but Bharatiya Janata Party expansion in northeast, this election would prove that Bharatiya Janata Party and its ideological base is strong in Manipur, because our support base, as a national party, our space in northeast would be concretized and institutionalized. Third important thing here is that in Uttar Pradesh, a narrative has been set by certain pseudo-secular, including some intellectuals, that yogi is a majoritarianism, politics of majoritarianism. But when we ask the question, give us 3 instances. Closing the slaughterhouses is a majoritarianism, illegal slaughterhouses, or enforcing the law and order equally on all the people is majoritarianism. So the opposition has no answer. So that this election, polemics is going to be defeated by the concrete agenda of Bharatiya Janata Party. Third, last point I am speaking in this election. This election would also prove that opportunism is not going to work. When you are coming to any political party with some ideological commonality and ideological appeal, BJP also gets some support from some members. They're just like a RP Singh, who was well placed in the Congress. He joined BJP. And he clearly spoke that it was the ideological, political, and leadership's commonality is coming. Appeal of the leadership is coming. But when you are at the 11th hour, you are jumping from one party to another party. And with the caste basis appeal or a community appeal, that is going to be rejected. So I think that this mini election in India in 5 states, in northeast state to core North India state Uttar Pradesh, would be a very, very important, significant, both point of view of the political process as well as ideological discourse in this country.
Thank you, Professor Sinha. Dr. Ali Khan, your words, please.
Thank you so much for having me, and greetings to Professor Sinha, Dr. Yajnik, Simran ji, and yourself, Manish ji. So I largely confine myself to speaking about Uttar Pradesh, where I'm from, as I'm a spokesperson of the Samajwadi Party. But of course, a lot of the issues that we have here in UP also afflict many other states in India. The current election, of course, is very, very important by the accounts of senior BJP leaders themselves. What is very clear is that they themselves have acknowledged that it is a fight between our party and the BJP. Of course, many other parties are participating, and one cannot ever write off any political party. But at the moment, at least, it is very clear that this is a two-sided contest. The issues are basic. I mean, I do not want to, at this point, refute or at least challenge what my colleagues earlier have said, because of course, there's Piyush Goyal, Dharmendra Pradhan, Anurag Thakur, Nirmala Sitharaman, Kiran Rijiju, Jyotiraditya Scindia, Jitendra Prasad, Bonmai. Dynasty is everywhere in India. This is a much bigger problem than any one party. So we shouldn't pretend like it only afflicts the opposition. But the issues on the ground are serious. There are issues to do with agrarian distress. There are issues to do with huge unemployment, issues to do with inflation. The one of the biggest problems that Indian farmers in UP at least are facing are those of stray cattle. Farmers, in terms of their labor output, are doing double the labor because they work their fields in the day, and they guard their fields from cattle in the night. Law and order, according to NCRB data, if you look at it, and I can quote you the statistics later, the number of cases have actually gone up of various kinds of crime. Particularly crimes, and you have these extraordinary cases of crime. For example, now cities associated, sadly, with rapes. You have Hathras, you have Unnao. You only need to say the name of these cities, and they are associated with horrific rapes. The other, of course, big issue, and which is a much larger, and it is a national issue that is being raised, is that of reservation. This is not just an economic issue. There are certain parties that assume that simply economic progress is going to raise India. But our forefathers, the founding fathers of our constitution, enshrined in that sacred document the importance of reservation for communities who have historically been deprived of an equal right to sit at the table. Amongst those are the scheduled castes, tribals, of course, and the OBC, the other backward castes. And the BJP won on the back of trying to capture the OBC, and it did vote to a large extent in 2017. But what is happening at the national level is privatization. Our banking sector, insurance, railways, airports, even something like the Central Electronics Company, which was a government CEL, which was a government-owned company. There's a commission sitting on it now, but it was being sold for 210 crores, which is nothing. It's a national treasure. It owns 50 acres of land in the national capital region, which in itself is much more than that valuation. So the issues are multiple. And at the moment, what we have in Uttar Pradesh is really a sea of popular support for the Samajwadi Party, which has already started in the West, which was hit by huge farmer distress. So these are very much issues to do with the everyday lives of people. Of course, some of the issues that my colleagues mentioned are also important, and they do find space within their constituencies. But ultimately, the Samajwadi Party is Samajwad, which is actually the Hindi equivalent for those of you who are watching who don't know. It means socialist. And socialism, of course, not only is enshrined in our constitution, as a word, it was introduced much later, but it is built into the basic structure of the constitution from its inception. So our fight is threefold. It is for social equality, which we say in Hindi, Samajik Nyay. Our second fight is for Arthik Samta, which is economic equity and equality. so fair distribution. And the third is Qawmi Ekta, which is national unity. These are the three overall pillars of Samajwad, of socialism as we define it. And of course, given the huge amount of distress, especially amongst the young, women, farmers, and the middle classes who've really suffered a lot in the last 2 years because of COVID. We are confident that these issues are the ones, and we have never, contrary to popular allegation, the idea that certain parties do politics based on vote bank, Muslim vote bank politics. Well, the data tells you otherwise. Muslims have not been a vote bank even before partition. In 1937, the Congress won in these very united provinces and defeated the Muslim League simply because the Muslims did not vote en bloc. So this is one of the biggest myths to divert attention from the other issues that I've already mentioned, which we are fighting on the basis of. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you, all three of you, for giving us your version of what we see. Let me start by asking a pointed question. I mean, I heard Dr. Yajnik say 2024 is far away. And but I believe that everybody is running and gunning for this political battle, at least in Uttar Pradesh, like it's around the corner. You know, the general elections will get impacted by what happens, at least in Uttar Pradesh, if not Uttar Pradesh and Punjab and Uttarakhand. You know, this is a significant vote bank here. You know, this is what, maybe 150 million or more. I think, you know, more like 250 million people.
230 to 40 million people.
Yeah, 230 to 40 million people. That's a lot of people. And that's very significant. So, very quickly, I'll start with, because Dr. Yajnik already said this. Professor Sinha, do you think this will have a direct impact, these elections, at least the UP ones on 2024? Yes or no? You have to unmute yourself, sir. Unmute you.
Every election has certain impact on future election. That I agree. But I agree with M.E. Yagnik that Indian democracy is very dynamic, and transformation and changes in political process is more important than the past election. So we have 2 years span for the next election. So I can't say I don't believe that this election has direct bearing on the next election. Naturally, if BJP wins, I'm a party man, but since election is taking place, so I will use the term. If our party wins most of the states, then naturally it boosts the moral. If opposition parties get defeated, it demoralizes that. That is a definite factor. Nobody can deny this. But what is uncontested fact is that Mr. Dr. Ali Khan has mentioned that BJP has also dynasty. I think these subjective issues are more important for us. We are not psychologists that we will discuss. Definitely dynasty, the infection of dynasty is everywhere. But what is concern of the Prime Minister Modi in Rajya Sabha was dynasty-driven party. In our party, Bharatiya Janasangh to BJP, there are 24 party presidents. No one was the son of a previous president in the span of 1950 to 2022. So dynasty-driven parties are detrimental to democracy, and I am pained that India's intellectuals were brilliant lot of intellectuals in the world horizon in social sciences and the public discourse are silent. Intellectuals are silent. They subside the issue. They go to other issues. This is very important. Democracy is the most valuable thing humanity has invented. And that's why I said that we all participating in democratic process. So this is a lesson for the world community that how India values the democracy. But when we value the democracy, but we remain the pyramidal stage, when the most of the political parties, Samajwadi Party is one family. You see the office bearers of Samajwadi Party. You see the Congress Party. No one can deny this Congress, how Congress Party is being run. And now you see the other Bahujan Samaj Party. We see the DMK, AIDMK. So this is, I'm not blaming any party. This is a part of the blame is to intellectuals, social scientists, who have not created a extra pressures on these parties that if you are following the dynasty politics, we are going to attack you. Rather, they became the appendix of these parties. So that's why in India, there's also debate on the intellectuals' role in India in political system. A second, last point, because others have to speak, and I know that Ami Agnik is ready to for many emanations against me. But one thing I want to say here, that in this process, we should also discuss the nature of discourse which is taking place in the election. That is very important. If these two things we will discuss impartially, even if we are a party member, if we will contribute in that, that will be very beneficial in regard to the Indian political system and political process.
Dr. If you could unmute yourself, I just wanted to ask you. I mean, you both. He has spoke first. You said 2024 is far away. He agrees with you, but I think in the democratic process, in the evolution and transformation of this new India, especially with the young voters, everything has a bearing as an impact and a long term one. I think people are watching this election very closely because of everything that all three of you have said, because of dynasty, because of communalism, because of caste and religion being brought up, because of the farmers issue, or because of many things, economy. So why do you think it won't have an
No, no.
impact?
I mentioned that we may just not have some kind of a very direct and close relationship between this and 2024, because I think from 2014 we are India is less of a, I think we don't talk about it as a democracy, but we find that it is always in an election mode. Anything that is every election has become such a kind of a fight for power by the ruling dispensation. So it has given a different kind of a description to India. That is what I would say. Every time we have to hear the ruling dispensation talking about democracy, then what have you done in this last 7 years? All institutions are almost in a sense diluted. I would not say that you have not let the institutions be as they are. You talk about any institution, you don't let it be a part of democracy, and you continuously talk about democracy. You have got some fixation on dynasty. You take people who are belonging to dynasties from other parties and bring them in your own party. You are unable to create your own leaders. You start, I mean, poaching is a strong word, but you take people from other parties and you just say that, well, they you could not take care of your people, and then you find all kinds of excuses. So there is a phobia, a kind of word I can use, if I can use, it's a strong word. But all the time, from morning to evening, attacking dynasty and persons, this was never there. From the time I grew up, I have also seen elections in this country. I have believed in democracy, I have believed in the independence of institutions. But you name one institution that is independent today, and just see on the social media what the world is watching, the world is looking at India, how it has changed in these several years. And continuously, instead of talking about doing development, you talk about, yes, we believe in development. Where is that development? Where is that social fabric of India? You practically find destruction of that social fabric, whether it is in the form of destroying schools. You close schools, primary education. Forget about COVID right now. Pre-COVID stage, you find schools have been closed. You never talk about education, you never talk about giving education to children, you never talk about bringing social security for those children, never talk about security. Yes, while elections are there, you say we are for women's safety, we are for women empowerment, but where are those women? Where are those policies that are you implementing on the ground? Why there is such a huge crime rate? Wherever you see there's a crime rate, violence against women, there are so many laws. Why can't you talk about the backlogs that are pending in courts? Why don't you talk about justice? Social justice was a word that is in the constitution. If you go to the debates of some past years, you will never hear the ruling dispensations spokesperson use that word. Suddenly I find that yes, those spokesperson, even the honorable prime minister brought social justice of late in his speeches. I think they are totally not understanding India as a nation. India came this far post independence in these 7 decades. They talk about what they did in these 7 decades. What did India do? Well, we have the best institutions in place: IIMs, IITs, Those students have done so wonderful. We have dams in the four corners of the country. We have these wonderful other institutions in place. Talk about the election commission, talk about our independent judiciary. But well, you only want to bring some kind of angles when you talk about elections. It's only power, 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 and it is not development for the country. You talk about unemployment. You promised when this ruling dispensation came to power, it said that we will give 2 crores jobs to our youth every year. Today we have a high rise in the percentage of unemployment. The youths are waiting, the young are waiting for jobs. There are no jobs. You don't talk about that at all. No unemployment. You will see the unrest among students. You see the educated youth asking for jobs. They want placements. You don't find that. So then, if you only talk about elections, and if you say that okay, these 5 state assembly elections may be a forerunner for 2024, there may be change. Yes, it will definitely impact. People are now having access to media. People are also understanding what media is doing. People are also on social media, because everyone has a mobile phone, whether the person has education or not. But someday they realize that they are on free rations, but they don't get a job. The government gives them free food so that they can sustain themselves every month, but they don't get education, they don't get social security, they don't get jobs, they don't get safety, they don't get security. So what is this all about? So people are watching, and that is why in that context I said, yes, with every election it's a power game for the ruling dispensation. If you are worried about India, you are worried about the democracy of this country, you would have let the institutions grow, let them be independent, you would have abided by the law. But you are worried about regional parties. Well, why do you worry about regional parties? They have been there. Why did you not raise your voice in 1984 when you just grew up in 1980? Why don't you tell the truth to the people of the world that yes, we were with the British at that time, we did not be with the democracy, we did not be with the framers of the founding fathers of our constitution, we did not stand with them, we never asked question in 80s 90s. Now that you have come to power, you want to take up issues that don't matter as much. So this is the issue. Very convenient, very selective, and then you want to talk about doing something good for the country. I think they should come out with a true picture and really what they want to do for the people of this
Thank you,
country.
thank you, thank you, Doctor. Dr. Ali, if you can give me a short take of yours on this, and I'll move and with the answer to this question, please move on to my next question that I brought up in the beginning also. That will this election not only have an impact on 2024, but what would it mean to the future of parties like Samajwadi Party and Congress Party if they get defeated big time, or for the BJP if it loses the election? So you for your party will talk to the BJP and Congress for their parties. Go ahead, please.
Thank you so much. So, I mean, look, as far as everything my colleagues have said, we can speak at each other. The only thing I would say as far as 2024 is concerned, I would actually urge you to pay attention to the fact that actually a lot of PR and marketing work has gone into projecting the BJP as somehow completely eclipsing everyone else in India politically. If you look at the 2019 numbers, sorry, excuse me. If you look at the 2019 numbers, out of the total population, about 17 to 18% voted for the BJP. Out of total registered voters, about 25%, that's 1 in 4 people voted for the BJP. And in terms of people, the votes polled, about 37%. So on average, give and take, 1 in 3 people, or slightly 1.25 out of 3 people are voting for the BJP. That is not a majority, right, of Indians. So it is not like a mandate that the country has handed over to the BJP. They are defeatable. Margins are often very small. So I don't think, there's often a despair amongst people that this is a behemoth, whether it's a Samajwadi Party, whether it's any other party. There are wins and losses in democratic politics. We can all recall a time when the BJP was at 2 seats, and of course it is where it is today. So, in politics, it's not a linear game, politics. It has its ups and downs, and therefore I would resist from trying to sort of take any sort of big calls about 2024 and the future of regional or opposition parties.
Thank you. Simran?
So my question is basically to Dr. Yagnik and to Dr. Khan. I think to play the devil's advocate here, we've all, read stories, done stories as journalists, which are critical of the government. But my question is that I think the people of this country are also equally worried about the state of the opposition that exists. Because in any healthy democracy, while you have people in power and you have a government, and we write and we criticize and we look at the role of the government, I think it's equally important to look at what the opposition is doing. And I think the Congress has failed this nation very terribly when it comes to providing a credible opposition. We really don't look at the Congress today and see an opposition that can stand up, that can take on issues which we think the government is not doing. And I think that is the role of the opposition. And we have always looked at Congress as being this party which can provide a national opposition, which it is sadly failing to do so. And to Dr. Khan, my question is that even Samajwadi Party, the infighting and the ugliness that you see in Samajwadi Party also does not really inspire too much confidence in the voter. So my question to both of you is that, as journalists and as media people, and Dr. Professor Sinha criticized that, intellectuals are also to be blamed. We don't write about dynasty. Actually, we've written a lot about dynasty, and that is the reason why there is such a sharp focus on the Congress party being so dynastic. So I think we are doing our job, but I think where is the opposition in this country? And I think as a voter, I would like a choice when I go out to vote, right? And sadly, I don't find that choice. I mean, do I vote for Congress and feel that I'm wasting my vote because this party is in shambles? Do I vote for Samajwadi Party and still feel that at the end of the day, the BJP is a stronger, better organized party and they will win? So should I really vote for the Samajwadi Party? So my question is to both of you, what is the opposition doing?
But can I both request all of you to be really quick, because we do have a bunch of questions that have come from the audience, and all of you I know are waiting to. You have other engagements, so just short, quick answers, please. Dr. Yajnik first.
Well, I think Congress is a very strong opposition, as you have seen. Otherwise, from for every small thing, every sentence of the opposition of the ruling dispensation contains the word Congress. Congress is a pan-India country. Congress has been forefront in getting freedom for the country, and so continuously, if you try to say that, well, the Congress is not a strong opposition, well, we were not there for the last election. We lost the election, but that does not mean that we are not a strong opposition. We are in many states and a presence everywhere. We bring the issues forth. It's a different matter that the ruling dispensation is using institutions, is using agencies. Everyone knows about it. And that is where the issue is, that you do not want to take any of the issues that the opposition brings forth. Any issue you take today, from bank frauds, huge scams, you take anything that is in the forefront, you even take crimes against women. Where is the solution given by the ruling dispensation when they have a mandate of majority? They can do wonders if they really want to do for the betterment of society, but they don't, because there's a fixation and you want to call the opposition weak, despite the opposition continuously standing up for issues of the people of this country.
Thank you. Dr. Ali?
Thank you for your question. So quickly, I mean, one thing I would say as far as your broader points were, your broader question, I think part of the reason that the opposition is shown, and particularly in the case of UP, shown to be weak, is also partly because the one institution that no one has named, but is part of the institutional kind of breakdown in our country, is the media. Which has been completely eclipsed and used by the ruling party at the moment. Everyone knows this. People are migrating now from watching TV news to YouTube channels and so on and so forth, precisely because an image has been created that has been perpetuated. As far as your question about the Samajwadi Party is concerned, with all due respect, Simranji, I would sort of ask you to come again to UP, because though there were disputes in 2017, the party paid a price for them. But just yesterday in Etawah, Mulayam Singh Yadav ji, the patron of the party, Shivpal Singh Yadav, his brother, and Akhilesh Yadav ji, who's the chief ministerial face, were all sitting in a bus campaigning together. So there is no infighting. The command structure is very clear. Akhilesh Yadav is in charge, and this election that we are seeing unfold at the moment is happening despite the fact, as Dr. Yagnik said, that the government is using every possible means at its disposal to browbeat, to shut down, and to shut out any voices of dissent, any voices that show it in a negative light. But the popular vote will speak for itself on the 10th of March 2022.
Well, thank you. Do you, let me just move on to, there's a bunch of questions.
No,
So,
let me. I just give me 30 seconds. I will not take more than
yeah,
30
yeah, I
seconds.
knew that was coming. All right.
Simran has raised a very important question.
You have to unmute yourself,
Simran has
doctor.
raised a very important and pertinent question that in democracy there should be a healthy and organized opposition party. In absence of the organized opposition party, extra parliamentary forces start working as a opposition party. That is dangerous for any nation, which we see in India. That certain unknown forces are coming and leading the some masses. Every in democracy, there are certain people who are not happy with the government or disagree with the government, but that should be led by the organized party. What I want to say that Congress has all India presence. That is the legacy of the Congress as all India presence. Congress is very fast shrinking in the past tense. As far as Samajwadi Party is concerned, the due to its completely combination of caste and community. I don't want to name that. The caste and community, that not going to be a very inclusive appeal to the party. We are blamed for that. We are against minority. The allegation is that, but we try to outreach. We don't. The others blame. We don't say that we are party of a Hindu or a party of a particular community or particular. That is the difference between the party led by JP Nadda, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and the party which are particularly based on a limited sectarian appeal.
Well, thank you. I'm going to ask you some pointed questions, Dr. Yagnik, because you were saying, Yagnik, you have to leave in a little early. And I'd like to continue with both of you because this has turned very interesting. What is going to happen in Punjab? Your party went through major divisions. The chief minister left, then you have a new chief minister, but Mr. Navjot Singh Sidhu, our college mate from our college days, Professor Sinha's and mine, is playing his own tunes. What is going to happen with the party? Do you expect your party to come back with
Our
either
part-
force or a coalition?
the party is doing very well. If you see the past record, also, of course, the earlier chief minister had to leave, but then you could see that despite being a Congress person, he has thought of floating another party and joining hands with another party. But the work that the Congress has done, if you have seen the social indicators, the crime rate, and the help to the farmers, there are many issues. So Punjab, I think Congress is doing very well, and these infighting, you may call it, but there are differences of opinion. And I am very surprised that if you look at the last 7 years, you will not find the media pick up a single smallest issue of the ruling dispensation, the Bharatiya Janata Party, as if there is such an amicable understanding that nobody speaks anything. It's all hush hush. So always highlighting even the smallest issue and making it so big in the media, I think that is not giving a true picture to the people of this country. So Punjab is doing very well. The Chief Minister Channi did so well, and he's popular and a very liked leader. But yes, we have to wait till the voting day, the results come out. But constantly saying or giving, casting aspersions on leaders who might even have a little slight difference of opinion, as labeling them as infighting, I think it's not the correct picture. I think other parties also do have, but if you will see, once a person resigns, the person is practically non-existent. Why don't you take out these leaves of the past from the Bharatiya Janata Party, and you will see that the BJP never gives credit to their leaders. You will never hear them speak about Advani ji or Bajpayee ji, and they only speak about the current dispensation. So there is something which they are trying to I wouldn't say market, but to completely bring before all the time, hammering it on the heads of into the heads of the people of this country, and through media. So people are definitely watching every thing slowly comes into the picture of understanding.
But I would like to clarify that media got a lot of beating covering the farm laws. Media got a lot of beating covering CAA. Media got a lot of beating covering 370 and 35. So you shouldn't feel that with media, particularly foreign media or domestic media, at least the people that we know and deal with, actually take sides. But these are just issues that we come up with. That
No, no, you are
Congress has
right. You cannot bring the foreign media
Agni ji,
here. We are
I
talking
want to
about the
see.
local media.
Congress has the emergency mentality that they want media at their disposal. Media, you rightly pointed out, media has criticized during the Sahin Bagh agitation and during the farm agitation, the way media, but we never blame media. We say that there should be a fair and impartial news, not your views. A journalist comes with a views, the news becomes a backseater. But ultimately, we say that media should not be blamed. Media's independence should be intact, undiluted, and it is our joint responsibility. Those who are in parliament and parties, and those who are not in the parties and parliament.
Thank you. Dr. Ali Khan, I have a question from a member, and he's asked many such questions, but he's saying, why has the opposition not raked up the issue of China invasion? The Corona thing is almost all gone. Nobody's talking about the Corona thing. Nobody's talking about Pulwama. Nobody's talking about inflation. The GST. You know, what this suddenly this election, and all three of you are saying that this election is not being fought on certain issues, but I think the issues are very narrow. We haven't taken a broad world view or a larger view. Is that right or wrong? What do you think?
So, look, I mean, as far as China is concerned, when the crisis was happening over the last year and a half, what is very clear is that, well, we took a position. Dr. Luhya, a very long time ago, wanted India to have a Himalaya policy. Mulayam Singh Yadav, who's the founder of our party and is the patron of our party currently, he has consistently raised the issue of China. And when he was defense minister, he actually said that in the future, the main threat that India will have will be from China. So in the appropriate forum, these issues have been raised. As far as the election is concerned, you have to understand that ultimately in assembly elections, people are voting for largely local issues. The BJP has had a habit of trying to use these kind of bluster, large issues to fight elections with, but they are not working anymore. As far as what my right honorable friend, Professor Sinha, said just now, he didn't want to name the two communities. I can name them, Muslim and Yadav caste and community. The MY for Samajwadi as it stands today is Mahila and youth, women and youth. Mahila in Hindi is are women. So it's a much more broad-based, local issue-based election that is taking place right now. In the parliamentary elections, a lot of these issues will be raised. As far as Corona is concerned specifically, what I think a lot of us, because we all ask this question, why, to what extent is Corona an issue, to what extent it is not. Actually, the sad reality is that a lot of people who are living in rural India were already dealing with a health system that was broken. Right? So the images that we saw, which actually shook the conscience of this nation, and especially when those images came to the city and we saw the burning pyres and we saw the burials and we saw the floating bodies in the Ganga, they shook those people, and rightly so, of course, who were unused to seeing this kind of complete free fall in our health system. When I was doing our work on behalf of the party during the lockdown and so on and so forth, it was very interesting because a lot of poor people, partly due to poor communication, we were banging pots and pans at the behest of the Prime Minister when very serious steps needed to be taken to address issues. People didn't take Corona seriously and they saw it as just another disease that they face, and they're already facing so many. So yes, while Corona might be an issue for urban middle-class voters, it seems to some extent less of an issue, although it is, of course, there, the shortage of oxygen. Anyone who's lost someone is conscious of it. I would say, there are issues, but the issues also that the opposition parties, and particularly the Samajwadi Party, is speaking about actually reflects the anxieties and issues that people want addressed. So if we are not raising China to the extent that someone might think we need to, it is partly also because it needs the appropriate forum for it to be raised. I'm sorry, I normally I'm giving you short answers, but I'll just take 1 second more. Earlier, Dr. Sinha was saying that they want to rise above these politics of caste and community. Well, there's a photo of someone in the background of his show of a gentleman named Golwalkar. For everyone who's watching, he was a leader of the RSS. I don't want to say anything about him. You Google yourself, put his name in Google, and see what his views were about this country and who the main threats were. I think lastly, one important point I would like to make is religion. We have already in South Asia seen how disastrous it is to have religion in politics. A country, Pakistan, was created in the name of a religion. Today, they can't even agree amongst themselves to defining Islam and who is a Muslim. There's infighting. So tomorrow, if India's 180 million, 200 million Muslim population vanishes, then what will happen? There will be an internal struggle. So religion, as our founding fathers were so wise and perspicacious in enshrining in our constitution, religion and people's individual rights to practice and follow their religion should be protected, but religion should have no place in the running of a republic, of a democratic, socialist, secular republic such as India, because the pitfalls of them are all there to see just next door.
Thank you. And I know that Professor Sinha would have a comeback to this, but before you do that, let me go to Dr. Yajnik. I know
I have 8 p.m. times now debate.
Huh?
Yeah, I have the times now debate 8 p.m.
Yeah. So just give us a couple of minutes. But which states do you think Congress is going to do well, and how much? Very quickly, I'm going to ask all three of you. So just 1 minute answers, Dr. Yajnik first.
I would say we will be doing well in all the 5 states. So I think I do not want to pick and choose, because we have tried our level best to bring all the issues that are on the ground to the people of those particular states. You have seen the presence of Congress in all the 5 states, and you have seen the local issues being taken up. By and large, I think we are going to do very well in all the 5 states.
To you, Dr. Ali, what's going to be the status of your party in UP? Can you give us the number of seats? Do you think that party
No,
might?
I'm not a psephologist, so I'm not going to give you a number of seats, but I can tell you that the people are rising up and fighting this election on behalf of the Samajwadi Party, and so I feel confident that we'll be forming government on the 10th of March.
Professor Sinha, what do you think is going to happen in the elections?
Before coming to that, I would request my co-panelists to know Nehru, Gandhi, Golwalkar, Hedgewar, Lohia. We don't need to Google. We are in this country. We are in part of discourse. Golwalkar is one of the best, one of the most effective social philosopher in this country, who intervened in India's politics and social and cultural life for 30 years as a RSS chief, right from 1940 to 1973. Now, coming to the core question of yours, the Bharatiya Janata Party is going to win most of these states. I don't claim about the Punjab, but we have improved in Punjab. And the equations in Punjab is very fragmented, so nobody can forecast anything. But Goa, Uttar Pradesh, Uttarakhand, and Manipur, we are going to win. In Uttar Pradesh, we will get no less than 300 seats. Manipur is clear-cut majority, and Goa, we will cross the majority. So I think that Bharatiya Janata Party is in clear ace, which we see, and I think in as soon as election coming near to us, and we are improving day by day.
Before everybody leaves, Simran, any last word? Any last comments, questions?
I think just a quick question to Professor Sinha, and this is drawing from something that Dr. Khan said. I think as the media or as a citizen of this country, one would wish that the government focuses a little less on religion. I know we are all a very spiritual country, but I think at the end of the day, we are all also very different. I'm a Sikh by religion, but I'm also Indian. I'm also Punjabi. So our identities are very multiple. And I think and I've grown up in a very liberal India where, I'm a Sikh, but I've cut my hair. So my religion and my spirituality has nothing to do with a lot of politics which comes out. So it's a general feeling I get that the India I have lived in or I've grown up in is really changing. And this is something I'm putting out to Professor Sinha, that people of my generation, we would like India to retain that multicultural identity that we have grown up with. That's very precious, I think, to all of us.
No, this is very important question, and the perceptions must be demolished. Simran, my counter question is that have you any instance in this country local feuds and local remarks and third-rate commentaries just to get the name in the television channels? I am not talking about them. Can you give 2-3 instances where multiple identities have been contested by the state? You know that there is a difference between that. There is a difference between religious things and soft power. China is spending $10 billion per year on soft power, and India has no soft power. If Sarnath, and Kushinagar, there is an international airport, and Kashi Vishwanath is reconstructed, it is not for a religion. It is soft power of India. If Bhagavad Gita Prime Minister is presenting, and also the Cheraman Mosque presenting to the king of Arab country, it is not the religion. It is a question of the India's multiple identities which is emerging as a rainbow, and the Cheraman Mosque and the Kashi Vishwanath. We must be knowing how Prime Minister presented to the Arabian king Cheraman Mosque. He was surprised. A temple was converted into mosque by Hindu ruler. So I think that it is a perception being made by the opposition parties, and I agree with Munish that core issues they are not talking. They are not talking with China because Prime Minister Modi after 2014 created the infrastructure in India-China border which Nehru to Manmohan Singh could not do. So China is angry with India. We are in the position to have, if China comes for a war, we will give the befitting reply. That's why opposition is failed. And I think Prime Minister Modi's 365 work is failing the opposition. They are without agenda. They are leaders, but no workers. They have the perception, but no ideology. They have paid workers, but no genuine party committed workers. That is the tragedy of the Indian opposition. So I think Simran, you must come out from that perception, because we know that in India, nobody can defeat India's secularism and democracy. No power on the earth can defeat, whether it is BJP or Congress.
We are going to end because all of you have to leave, but a very interesting debate. I hope 3 of you can join us again very soon in the near future, particularly after the elections, to analyze the elections. But any quick comments? We have just about 2 minutes before I do the close. Go ahead, Dr. Yaj.
Yes, I think when Simranji said that, yes, the India in which she grew up, I mean, I also grew up. And I think the ruling dispensation, including the Prime Minister and all the top leaders, should not forget they also lived and grew up in that same India. And I think today the factum of fear, the factum of not trusting your own colleague standing nearby, the divisiveness in everything, and this perception that yes, he is of this community, she is of this community, she is of this class, the inequity. So the core issues are this, my dear friend Mr. Sinha. The core issues are that people have to be happy, people have to be at peace with themselves. Society does not have to be fabricated in fragments, and people should feel safe and lovely to live in. So this is the India we all grew up in. You will agree with that. Today there is this quantum of some kind of a trust deficit I find everywhere in society. So let's be the India we were in.
Dr. Khan.
So just to the points raised earlier, I think, look, the fundamental criticism that I would have of the BJP is this. That they and the affiliate organizations that are part of the group of family of institutions that they belong to have thought so deeply and only about issues of, we can get into these word plays of soft power and hard power and so on, but they've thought only and solely about religious, cultural, other words, emotional issues, that frankly they have not dedicated time to the real, very real social, economic, political problems that this country faces, which is why something like Notebandi, demonetization, which was spun as something to control black money, to control terrorism, well, where are those results? So the problem is that the BJP in itself, in my opinion, is almost ideologically hollow now. They're trying to preach to whichever group they happen to be confronted with. And even in that, they are diluting their own ideological core. And I think that is deeply dangerous for the national unity of this country and for the national fabric of this country. Because all the issues that are constantly being raised, constantly being recycled, if you look at the BJP in UP, if you look at the BJP's, the speeches of the main BJP leaders in 2014, in 17 and 19, they're raising the same issues today. I mean, they have not solved any of, they've been in power. They have what they call themselves a double engine sarkar, a double engine government in the center and in the state. And yet they are raising the very same issues that they raised in 2017. So clearly something is very, very rotten in the state of Denmark.
We are unfortunately past our time, and I know all of you have to leave. So thank you for joining us for this debate, Professor Sinha, Dr. Yajnik, and Dr. Ali Khan. Next time when we meet, all three of you, very learned people, very intelligent, very smart, we'll talk about what makes India happy. And I think the happiness quotient is something that's worth discussing. But thank you so much. And good night.
Conversations such as these. Thank you so much.
Thank
Good night.
you.
Thank you. Good night.